What's going on, guys? CWG here. Welcome to a brand new Nomifactory episode. And today's meme of the day comes from God's right hand. I used the microminers to make the microminers. I mean, yeah, it's kind of true. Alright, so at the end of last episode, I asked you guys to vote on what we'll be doing this episode. And the winner is Nuclear Craft, with over half of the votes. That's pretty impressive. And there's a lot of y'all that left comments like, CWG, just do all of them. Well, you know what, viewer? You know what? How about let's do all of them then, huh? Because what I've decided to do is the other three things that you guys didn't vote for, I did in between episodes. Can't you see that the clean room is much bigger? So I'm going to quickly recap the three things that you guys didn't vote for, and then we'll get into Nuclear Craft together in real time. It's going to be exciting. Let's get started. Now, before we get into the progress stuffs and things, I want to show you guys the quality of life upgrades I've been doing. For instance, I've upgraded our wrench. Check it out. It is an electric tungsten carbide wrench because it has like a crazy mining speed of 244. You want to see this in action? Say we have to replace some EBF coils. Boom. It's insta-break. Oh yeah. This wrench is awesome and I should have built it a long time ago. I was just lazy. And we have the same thing with a screwdriver. This is an HSSE or high-speed steel E screwdriver. And I picked this one because it has a ton of durability. Look at that, 3,064 uses. That's a powerful screwdriver. Another big quality of life upgrade, you can probably tell that I am flying way faster than before. Oh my gosh, this base is getting so huge now. That's because I upgraded our jetpack to the Vibrant jetpack. I mean, all it cost was a bunch of like Vibrant plates, a compressed octadic capacitor. That was kind of expensive, a Vibrant thruster, which is like a nested thruster chain. But it's okay, I finished crafting it and look how fast we can go now. Woo! Now I know in the comments you guys have been talking about this glitched armor set. There's something you could do called like the glitched key trial runs where you like fight a bunch of mobs and they have a chance to like drop glitched fragments that you can turn into armor. And if you get the whole set, you get creative flight basically. If we end up taking on this pack again in the future for some reason, I think maybe I'll go for that, but I'm having way too much fun with the jetpacks. Woo! Another thing I've done is I upgraded our titanium combustion engine up to the extreme variant. So we now have two extreme combustion engines. And you can see the one on the left has a completely full battery buffer. The one on the right is draining a bit. It seems to pull from this one first and then this one, which I guess is fine because these engines will actually idle if their power output is full. They're smart. And then both of these battery buffers go through IV cables, samarium iron arsenic oxide wires, which then go into a 16 amp IV converter and then goes into signalium energy conduits. And these conduits are able to transfer 524,000 RF per tick. That's pretty powerful. Also, there's a part in our quest book to get into the thermal expansion mod because there's some useful machines in here. If you guys remember from our Vault Hunter series, we've actually made these machines before. And this one I wish I knew about before. This is an energetic infuser. This is where you would usually go to charge your battery. Like you would put the battery in this slot, it would charge it up and output it here. But I put in this augment called a parabolic flux coupling upgrade. Sounds complicated, but what it will do is it will disable your infuser. That's why there's a little X here. We cannot put our battery in here because it will charge it wirelessly while it's in our inventory thanks to this upgrade. So we can fly around as much as we want. Our battery is going to get wirelessly charged. You'll love to see it. We got a compactor here that can make plates pretty quick. See? And it can also make gears if you give it the gear working die. And this guy, look how fast it is. This is way faster at making gears than the extruder over there, like probably 4 times faster. So that's pretty nice. Up here is a soul binder from the Ender IO mod. It's used for some very specific recipes. We'll get more into that later. Oh, over here, I started up our very first insane voltage automation line. And I love the look of these samarium iron arsenic oxide wires. They look awesome. And if you guys can tell around the base, I've been starting to swap my wires to the better superconductors. Oh, this one looks slick. This is mercury, barium, calcium cuprate wire. So if you guys are a bit confused on why I'm changing out wires, that is because for every tier of voltage, you know, low voltage, medium voltage, there are actually 2 different superconductors to choose from. There's the Ender-IO variant, which can hold 1 amp per wire, and the 16X wires can hold 16 amps. But then there's the Gregtech variant. And the Gregtech variant can hold a lot more amperage. As you can see, this 16X wire can hold 64 amps, while the other one can only hold 16. So the obvious decision should be, wow, you should use the magnesium diboride wires. The only issue is, to get magnesium diboride, I mean, it's an alloy of magnesium and boron, duh. If we take this mercury, barium, calcium cuprate wire, for example, that is the alternate HV superconductor wire. And to make this, you need copper, calcium, barium, mercury, and oxygen, like tons of different materials. And the reason I hadn't been using those wires in the past, as you can see we're using the lime ones over here, is because a lot of these materials are hard to get, such as barium. But now, thanks to our robust ore processing setup here, we are getting so many different rare materials, we can finally start making the really good superconductor wires. Like if we look at our barium here, 829 barium, 923 mercury, barium, calcium cuprate. We're swimming in this stuff now. So from now on, whenever I go to expand my machine line, I will be switching to the new and better wires, as you can see over here. Also, can we just say that this jetpack is way better, mostly because it matches? Look, it matches the rest of the armor set. And the jetpack itself matches the shirt. This is like the perfect jetpack. I love it. Other than that, the main quality of life upgrade I've been working on is a little bit of auto crafting. Yes, I finally gave in. I'm going to be setting up all our applied energistics auto crafting stuff over here. I have one singular 64K crafting unit with 3 co-processors. This is our brain when it comes to auto crafting. Then over here, these interfaces touch molecular assemblers, and this is what actually carries out the auto crafting. If we open up one of these interfaces, you can see I've already encoded some crafting recipes. And there's these awesome things called pattern expansion cards in this pack. Look, you can add more pattern slots right into the interface by adding this card. That's awesome. So you can hold so many patterns in each guy. And of course, we can make the patterns inside of our pattern terminal right here, and then we can throw it into the molecular assemblers just by searching them up in this interface terminal. See? You can see all the crafting patterns we have so far. Not very many, but I wanted to do it for things like interfaces because we make so many of them, I'm just tired of crafting them. And I've swapped out all of our drives for 64K drives now. Actually, we have 3 more we need to fill. So let's test out this auto crafting and see if it works. So if we go to 64K drive here, request 3 from the system, it says, hey, we have 300 red alloy plates, 450 glass, and a whole bunch of circuits and logic processors. Hit the start button, and we should see it. Yeah, look at it go. Look how fast it's crafting. I completely maxed out these guys with acceleration cards. It's like lightning fast. So now if we look at the system, we have 3 64K drives. That took like what, 10 seconds? That's pretty good. Oh, I've also been doing things around the base to tidy things up. Like you remember our old logic processor system that was right here and is like very messy? Well, I upgraded the inscribers to the advanced inscribers and made it much more neat with just one item conduit controlling all the item flow logic. So this system here will keep 256 of each of the logic processors automatically stocked. Same with a stack of fluix and a stack of pure nether quartz. As you can see here, they have a little bit of stamping animation as they make the circuits, which is pretty cool. And this whole process is passive. Since we just auto-crafted a bunch of components, they're now turning back on to refill all the buffers, which is pretty neat. Pretty neat. All the items are being supplied from an interface in the back, and each of these conduits have input filters, so it knows what to put inside of each inscriber. Neat. Also, I had no idea you can do this, but someone in my Discord showed me you can make fluix crystals inside the crystal growth chambers in this pack. You just have to put in nether quartz, charged Certus quartz, and redstone. And this isn't even in JEI. Yeah, you look in JEI, the normal way you do it is toss it into a water puddle, which is what I have been doing. But if I take out a stack here, watch the magic. Yeah, look! It just makes the fluix inside of this machine, and it's really quick too. So that solves our fluix issues that I've been making by hand this entire time. Then we have one over here for pure nether quartz. We need this stuff to make ME glass cables. So I've been doing a lot of automating for the things that we use for automating, which I've actually been crafting by hand like this entire time. So, you love to see it. Alright, it's finally time to move on to the main topics for this episode. So, according to the poll, the things that you guys wanted to see the least was PBI, polybenzene medizidol. What, you guys don't like realistic chemistry? Oh, I just realized I've been forgetting mini-dubs. Come back, mini-dubs. So if we look up PBI and JEI here, yes, there is lots of realistic chemistry to get this stuff. All you have to do is combine 3,3-diaminobenzene and diphenyl isophyllanotate. And this is like a 15-step process to set up because you need phthalic acid. We had the other two things, which means we need dimethylbenzene and tiny piles of potassium dichromate. Yeah, it was a lot of chemistry. But if you remember, the dimethylbenzene, we've been getting a ton of by distilling wood tar. Look, we have like a full super tank of dimethylbenzene. So realistically, the only thing we had to do to get PBI was set up a bunch more large chemical reactors. As you can see here, we have one making phthalic acid, one making 3,3-dichlorobenzidine, we got one making 3,3-diamidibibibibib, and finally, at the very end of the chain, we're making polybenzimidizimidol. I know that's not how you say these names, but I say it my way, okay? But look, we already have almost half a super tank of PBI, the highest tier polymer in the game. For example, carbon fiber has 4 different recipes. You can either do a 4-to-1 ratio by using polyethylene like a chump. The way we're currently doing it is with epoxy resin, which is a 1-to-1 ratio. But if you use PBI, you can turn 8 carbon dust into 16 raw carbon. That's doubling. PBI is also used for the ZPM machine hulls. Yeah, the tier above IV that we haven't gotten into yet, but we're getting closer and closer. We're also going to need PBI to make advanced SMD components for even better circuits. It's also going to be used inside the assembly line, which is scary. We're not going to talk about that yet. But just know the fact that we have PBI automated is obviously a great thing. Nice. Alright, so next on the list, with only 16% of the votes, is quantum circuits. I thought you guys would have found quantum circuits more exciting, huh? I don't blame you. I'm one of the weird people that enjoy making these circuits. Now, when it comes to quantum circuits, the only thing we were missing was the IV circuit assembler. That, and we had to make these qubit CPU wafers, which use indium gallium phosphide and radon. But now we're getting plenty of this stuff thanks to robust ore processing. So if we fly around the side of the clean room here, and the rain starts, check it out. We're making quantum circuits in there. It's kind of easier to see from the outside because inside the clean room, things get a little bit more compact. So I've added an entire IV line inside of our clean room here. We're using a step-up transformer, turning 16 amps of EV power into 4 amps of IV power, which is powering these orbs over here. In fact, we have a lot more room for more orbs, so we can have more and more IV power inside of here. So, in the IV circuit assembler on the left, it is actually making MV circuits. Because now that we have the IV circuit assembler, we can use the most efficient recipe, of which we get 4 MV circuits per craft. So we have this guy set up here to do that, and we already have 2,048 MV circuits. You'll love to see it. So right here, this is where the magic is happening. This is where we're automatically making EV circuits, extreme voltage. And then using a 2-to-1 ratio, we're getting IV circuits and this guy right over here. And then right next to that, we're getting LUV circuits. Yeah, the tier above IV. I think earlier I said ZPM's the tier above IV. No, LUV's the tier above IV, and then ZPM is the tier above LUV. Yeah, insanity, I know. But we now have like a full 2 stacks of LUV circuits. That's amazing. I also went ahead and automated these Lapatronic energy orbs, which can hold 250 million EU. I automated it because the recipe is a pain. Look at this. You need 24 engraved Lapatron crystal chips, which means you need 8 of these Lapatron crystals, which means you need 16 circuits and 8 of these guys, which is made in an autoclave, which is made in a mixer, which is made in another mixer, which is made with ruby dust. Yeah, it's very nested. But now we have a ton of these batteries. In fact, let's add another battery to our bank inside of here. Yeah. So yeah, we have the quantum tier of circuits completely automated. You can see I have some of the previous tier circuits right there. They're staying into that drawer because the system will automatically use those ones, and once we run out, it's gonna switch to the new ones, if that makes sense. All right, so what's next on the list? In second place with 25% of the vote was the tier 4 microminer. And come down to my basement. I've already set up the next tier of microminer projector. This is the advanced microverse projector. As you can see, it is slightly bigger than these other guys. Now, luckily, it's made of all the same materials to build this guy. Still needs a great machine casing. Like on this guy, you can see it's on the back. Still uses tempered glass, although now it has a much bigger window. I think this is actually pretty cool looking. So it wasn't too expensive to build. It's just the same stuff that we need to build these guys, but more of it. All you have to do is insert a tier 4 microminer from the side, and you can either get a bunch of osmium and iridium, or a bunch of diamonds, lapis, emeralds, redstone, and coal, depending on which mission you run it through. Now, how do we get the tier 4 microminer? Via this recipe right here. Now, it may seem very scary at first, but a lot of the stuff we already have automated. Like this guy, that's already automated. These reinforced lasers, that's already automated. All I had to do was automate the tungsten steel crates, some HV field generators, which use mercury, barium, calcium cuprate wires, and luckily, we have already automated that as well. It really feels like everything's coming together. So if we come down to the end of the medium voltage line, you can see this is all the different things that we needed to automate the tier 3 microminer. Oh, and I finally went ahead and automated the entire energy conduit chain. I had been doing this by hand, no joke. If you don't know what the chain is, in order to get the signalium one, you need the lumium one. In order to get the lumium one, you need the end steel one. In order to get the end steel one, you need the vibrant. And for that, you need to get the energetic. For that, you need to get the conductive iron. Yeah, it is all nested. But now I set up automation for it, so no biggie. Yeah, right over here is where we're making the HV field generators. We already have 2 stacks in backlog. So let's go ahead and ask the system for a tier 4 microminer. It says we have everything available. Start. It should first make the lasers. Yep. All right, there it goes. And it's making it the tier 3 microminer. Oh, so many materials. And there it goes. We can pull it out of the system. Tier 4 microminer, baby. We're progressing so quickly. So all the missions for the tier 4 require quantum flux and petroleum dust. Actually, they don't even need rocket fuel like these guys do. Remember how these guys needed rocket fuel? Instead of rocket fuel, these guys use petroleum dust, which we already have automated. And honestly, this is kind of cheaper than petroleum dust. So let's go ahead and put this guy in here. So if we want to get a bunch of iridium and osmium, we'll run this with 4 Wither Realm data, which we're getting from loot fabrication. So that's honestly not that expensive. But we can also use a gemstone sensor and get all of these dense ores, as you can see inside the drawer controller here. And out of all those dense ores, the most important one is dense diamond. You can take dense ore, mix it with nitric acid, and each dense ore gives you 16 normal ore. And remember, the mission gives you 2 stacks of dense ore, so that's equivalent of like thousands of diamond ore. And why is diamond ore important? No, not for the diamonds. I could care less about the diamonds. We have hundreds of thousands of diamonds. But we can get graphite as a byproduct. And finally, we have a source of graphite. I mean, I've already ran one of these missions once, and we have 2,947 graphite from that. Yeah, these dense ores are insane. So instead of using the dense ore mission, let's do the osmiridium mission, because this one's pretty cool. We just put in 4 Wither Realm data, and the mission begins. Look at it go, 40 seconds. And in 2 seconds, here we go. We get the osmiridium. Now, we get a lot more of this stuff than this stuff, which is interesting. And it just got sent to ore processing. Perfect. And these guys are going to run through the ore processing chain. You can see different machines kicking on. And it's going to give us a ton of osmium and iridium. 2 very expensive materials that we're going to need a lot of as we start getting into LUV. I mean, look at this. We already have 430 iridium and 202 osmium. Oh, we're swimming in it now, boys. So yeah, tier 4 microminer. Really good. And the question is, how far are we from the tier 5 microminer? Let's first claim our quest for the tier 4. We get a whole Nami quarter for that. The tier 5 microminer is going to require double iridium plates. Well, now we have a source of a lot of iridium. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is going to be expensive to make. It's going to require a fission controller. That's what we're going to be making today. What the heck? Yeah, we may be a bit far off from this. But what missions can we send it on? We can send it on sheldonite. That's like the best ore for the platline. Oh, and Naquata. I think that's how we unlock CPM. Okay, so that's when we start getting into the good stuff. Ooh, boron. I always need more boron. Oh, something else I noticed you can do with the tier 4 microminer. You can send it on a mission with a composition sensor, and it will straight up give you 2 stacks of dense oil sands, which can turn into 16 oil sands each, which you can send through ore processing to get you even more oil sands, which you can then centrifuge to get oil. Yeah, you could use the tier 4 microminer to basically mine oil for you. So that's an interesting option if we want to expand our oil production. So now that I proved to you guys that I have done 3 of the 4 things on that list, it's time to get into the 4th thing, nuclear craft, which means we're finally entering my domain. As some of you guys know, I used to operate a nuclear reactor on a submarine, so nuclear craft, psh, this should be easy, right? Let us peer into our quest book here. All the nuclear reactor stuff is over here. So the quest book here basically wants us to build an actively cooled breeder reactor, meaning the purpose of this reactor isn't going to be for power, but it's mainly going to be to extract the fission products. If we look at JEI here, depending on what fuel you put into the reactor, you will get different depleted outputs. So you guys remember how we've been storing thorium over here? Yeah, 265,000 thorium dust. Well, we can turn the thorium dust into prepared thorium and then turn that into fuel, which we then run through the reactor. We can get depleted fuel, which we centrifuge to get new elements. And then you can take these new elements, such as Neptunium-237, and then make a different type of fuel with it, and then run that through the reactor, and then turn that into more stuff. Yeah, it's time to get into some nuclear chemistry. We're building atoms with other atoms. That's nuclear power, baby. So that means we're gonna need these things in the quest book and probably like a bunch of other things. I'll be honest, I haven't used the nuclear craft mod. I think I used it once, and it was probably like 8 years ago. I'm not even joking. I think it's going to be easiest just to build the reactor first, and then I can explain to you guys how it works, because I'm more of like a visual learner. If the thing was built, it would be a lot easier to explain it. So what do we need in order for these materials? Let's look at the fission controller. We need this advanced plating, which is a combination of hard carbon, yttrium, barium, cuprate plates, and basic plating. Now that may sound very complicated, but I already have some advanced plating here, and we already set up autocraft. Can we get like 16 of them? No, because we need yttrium, barium, cuprate plates. But if you look into the system here, I have been preparing for this episode. I already made 611 yttrium, barium, cuprate. So let's throw some through the bending machine. Now can I craft 16? Yes, we can. Let's go. And yeah, we already have everything we need for the fission controller. Yeah, as you can see, the system will use all of our old nanoprocessor circuits first before it moves on to the new ones. And we got our fission controller. Now, the nuclear craft reactors can and will melt down if you don't provide enough cooling for it. So I'm wondering where I'm gonna build this thing in case, like, I don't know, something weird happens and it melts down. I don't want it to like eat our entire base. I'm sure we could set it up over here and it'll be fine. Well, we got a lot of things that we have to craft. Luckily, I've automated most of it already, like tough alloy. So let's make these components. And we're back, and we got a weird looking thing in front of us, don't we? Don't worry, this isn't the finished reactor, but I want to bring you guys in here to show you what I'm doing. So right here, this is going to be the insides of the reactor. These little glass things, these are reactor cells. These are going to hold the fuel itself. Now, the first type of fuel we're going to be using, of course, is thorium. As y'all remember, we have 269,000 thorium. And then you combine the thorium in a 9-to-1 ratio to get TBU fuel. Hey, quest complete. So basically, the way this works is when I insert the fuel into the reactor, it's going to be put into these cells and then it will start reacting. Now, when building nuclear craft reactors, you can optimize it for one of three things. You can build a reactor that makes as much power as possible, you can make a reactor that runs as efficiently as possible, or you can make a breeder reactor, which burns fuel as fast as possible to get the byproducts. If we look at the quest book here, the quest book wants us to build a breeder reactor. It also wanted us to build like all these cryothium coolers to make a passively cooled reactor. We're gonna take our Nami dollar for the quest and then do our own thing. Because the quest book wanted us to make a passively cooled reactor, I want to make an actively cooled reactor. What's the difference? In nuclear craft, there are different coolers you could use, and each cooler has like a different amount of cooling. If we zoom in here, you can see like a liquid helium cooler removes 140 heat per tick, but it has to be adjacent to one redstone cooler and one reactor casing. Yeah, every single cooler has its own like rule set that you have to follow. And of course, cryothium coolers is one of the best. It removes the most heat and it just has to be adjacent to 2 reactor cells. That's a pretty easy requirement to meet. But what the tooltip doesn't show you is that all these coolers can also be actively cooled using an active fluid cooler. And that's what these big laser things are. So the way it works is cryothium dust is going into this extractor to make gelid cryothium. The gelid cryothium then gets output to a drum down below, and then using Actually Addition's fluid lasers, we are laser zapping the cryothium to all these different buffers. If you look at the tooltip there, you can see each buffer is full of 32 buckets of gelid cryothium. And what these buffers do is they pass the gelid cryothium to the active cooler inside. You can see there's an active cooler right there. And it's very important, these buffers have to be touching the active coolers. And it does consume gelid cryothium over time, which is why I have a tank here to make sure that we don't end up running out of this stuff. Because if we run out of active coolant, the reactor melts down and it's a very bad time. So that's the downside of actively cooling your reactor. You have to worry about keeping your coolant stocked or you will have a meltdown. Now, you probably noticed a little bit of redstone here. This is to prevent the meltdown from happening. If this super tank of cryothium was ever to empty, the comparator would detect that and it would unpower this piston, raising the redstone block, cutting off redstone signal to this redstone conduit, which is connected to the fission controller. Basically, if we run out of coolant, it's gonna turn off the reactor. And I also have a manual switch here, so that way I can turn off the reactor by hand. Because I still want to be able to turn the reactor off in case I need to do maintenance or like something's going wrong. Now, the next question you guys are probably asking is, CWG, how do you know how much cooling you have to do in the reactor? Well, don't worry, my friends. There's actually an awesome calculator spreadsheet thingy that someone made. All you have to do is click the type of fuel that you're using, click what type of coolers you want to use, if you want to use active cooling or not, and then you click if you want it to like have the most power possible, most efficient, the things we talked about before, and then the calculator will just figure out the best possible layout for you. I mean, it's kind of like magic, not gonna lie. So that is how I built this reactor behind me. It uses active cooling, and it should be able to burn through the fuel as rapidly as possible, at least for thorium. Because if you look at the fuel here, each fuel has a different heat value. So this reactor specifically is designed only to process thorium. And remember, once we process it, we're gonna get the depleted fuel back, and then we're gonna get more radioactive isotopes, which we can turn into different fuel. I'll put a picture on the screen here. I made a flow chart of the entire depleted fuel chain. And it's my goal in the series to make a dedicated reactor to every single type of fuel. I think it's going to be a fun project. I love nuclear power. And I haven't messed around with nuclear craft in so long that I'm honestly pretty excited. So that's enough talk. Let's finish off and build this thing already. And I'm just hoping it doesn't blow up, honestly. We just have to add in some more fission casings on the bottom here. And you could also use this transparent fissure reactor casing. All you gotta do is combine your reactor casing with glass, and then we can actually see inside the reactor. I think that's a pretty cool feature. And nuclear craft is one of the few tech mods in which you don't have to fill in the edges. You just have to cover the face of the core like we are now. But these edges right here, you don't even have to like fill them in with casings or anything. I might honestly fill them in with casings just for aesthetics, because I think it looks better that way. But the casings are quite expensive. Are we willing to spend that many resources for aesthetics? We might. I don't know yet. You guys will have to let me know in the comments if you want the edges filled in. Hey, look at that. It looks like our reactor has formed and there's minus 38,000 heat per tick. Let me check this against my calculator here to make sure that's correct. Yes, it looks like this number is correct. Now in nuclear craft, as long as this number remains 0 or below or negative, your reactor will not blow up. If you ever see this in the positives, you're gonna have a meltdown. So, not gonna lie, I'm kind of terrified of trying this out. So when we put in this piece of fuel, it should not turn on because I have this lever flicked. All right, let's try it out. Oh, okay, it did not turn on. And what's cool is the heat will actually update for you. We are at minus 42 heat per tick, so the reactor should be safe to run. Although right now we have nowhere to put the power, and this thing is about to make 194,000 RF per tick. So what I'm gonna do here is use a 16 amp FE to EU converter, and we'll have it fill up a whole bunch of IV Lapatronic energy orbs. That should store a butt ton of power. I mean, I think we're ready to test this thing out. I really hope it doesn't blow up. So we should just be able to flick the switch here. It looks like it's on. Oh, it is filling up with power. Why is the power not getting extracted? What the heck? All right, turn it off. I mean, other than the power not getting extracted, it seems to be working. Oh, I figured it out, guys. I'm using the wrong type of energy conduit. This one could only transfer 2,000. This is the one that could transfer 500,000. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's try that again. Flick it on. It's running. Oh, look how quickly it burns through the fuel. That's what we want to do. We want it to burn through the fuel as rapidly as possible. And look at that, we got our first depleted fuel. I don't know if radiation is enabled in this mod pack, so let's test it. Am I taking damage? No. All right, we can touch depleted fuel in this mod pack. Do not try that in real life, kids. Now, the next step here is to centrifuge it to get the radioactive waste byproducts. And this is going to allow us to make newer and better fuels to go down the chain. And we're going to have so many different reactors. Oh, it's going to be so fun. So what I'm probably going to have to do is build another one of those centrifuges and thermal centrifuges setups over here. We'll have one centrifuge dedicated to making more of this thorium fuel because look, it's a 55-second recipe at MV. We're definitely going to have to use one of the multi-blocks for that. Now, the next thing I want to test is can we keep up with the gelid cryothium while this thing is running? I mean, there's only one way to find out. Let's throw in some more fuel. All right, it's burning. Let's look at how quickly it's eating it. Oh, you can see it go down. So we're at 4,000, 5,000. Okay, it looks like our production rate is higher. But I mean, for now, it's working. No problem. As long as this tank stays full, this thing will not melt down. And look at those batteries charge up. Oh, it's beautiful. And I gotta say, these extreme combustion engines have been doing such a good job of keeping the base powered. Every single other YouTuber I've seen do a Nami playthrough just spams these diamond generators everywhere. They get like 50 to 100 of these guys. And I'm like, that sounds very boring. What if we used more fun methods to make power? And I have no idea how much power this is gonna make when we have like all the reactors up and running, but I hope it's a lot. And we're back. It's the next day. And oh boy, I made some progress. So first things first, aesthetics. I decided to line these reactors with chiseled marble, and I think it looks pretty sick. I've also set up the thermal centrifuge combo like I said I would. The one on the bottom is a thermal centrifuge. It is taking all the thorium dust from our system on the left side and is outputting prepared thorium-232 inside of this crafter. The crafter then makes the TBU fuel. Pretty simple. Then whenever a new fuel gets made, you can see it get sucked out and it gets put into our breeder reactor. Look at it getting bred. As you can see, we're full on power. Look, we have completely filled up 2 battery buffers. This is insane. I may have to add another third. We're just making so much power from these reactors. Then after this reactor is done burning the fuel, you can see the depleted fuel get picked up. There it goes. It should go into this centrifuge. Yep. And now we can get the tasty byproducts and make even more types of fuel. For instance, we're making a ton of this lowly enriched Neptunium fuel, and that is being sent to the reactor over here. These 3 reactors, yes, I built 3 more, are optimized for efficiency. Do you guys remember how like the fuel in this guy, it burns super quickly? I mean, just look how quick that is. In these reactors, the fuel burns slowly. Look at how slow that's burning. That's so we can extract the maximum amount of power per fuel pellet. So we have this reactor doing Neptunium, this reactor doing uranium, and this reactor on the end doing americium. And I must say, the high efficiency reactors, I think, look the coolest. Let me know in the comments which design you like the most. Do you like the one on the left, the one in the middle, or the one on the right? And I know it's a little beyond the scope of this video, but if you guys are curious to like what makes these efficient, is those blocks right in there. You see those green ones? Those are blocks of beryllium. And in Nomifactory, these are used as moderator blocks. I mean, you can read the description here, but I'll sum it up. After all, this is my area of expertise. So I'm sure you guys probably know that nuclear reactions run off of neutrons. Basically, a neutron will hit an atom, it will get absorbed, and there's a chance that it could fizz. And fission means power. Now, there's 2 types of neutrons in a reactor. There's the fast neutrons that get ejected right after an atom splits. But those fast neutrons are much less effective at fizzing than slow neutrons, or as we like to call it, thermal neutrons. But how do you slow down a neutron? That is what the job of these moderators are for. If we go to our periodic table here, you will see beryllium is towards the top, meaning it's a very light nuclei. I think it only has like 4 protons. And if you guys have ever played pool before, you know the best way to slow down a billiard ball is by hitting it into another ball of similar mass, because the momentum should be divided 50-50. So that's why beryllium makes a good moderator. You guys keep it up? So if you can slow down more neutrons inside of a nuclear reactor, then you're raising the efficiency, because more neutrons means more fission. So let me turn off this reactor so I can kind of like show you guys. On the other side of this moderator block is gonna be a reactor cell, which is where the fuel is being held, remember. And then touching every reactor cell is a block of beryllium. Remember, the moderator. You want to moderate the neutrons coming off of the reactor cell. So I gotta hand it to Nuclearcraft. They do a pretty decent job of making a realistic nuclear reactor mod. And as someone who used to operate reactors on a submarine, I approve. So this is 4 of many reactors that are going to be built in this wing, and I am so excited to build the rest. I mean, we got more fuels to burn. We got to burn this HECM M245 fuel. And with that, make sure you're subscribed. I'll catch you guys in the next one. CWG, ow.